Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Limitless Landscapes podcast. This is part 2 of 3. So, if you haven't watched part 1, go check out last week's podcast and then come back. It's all about 2 things I'm going to be talking about, one practical, one a little bit woo, that is going to help you develop your business, your life, improve, grow, whatever you want to call it. It's good. If this intrigues you, let's go to the show.
As the co-founders of the Landscaper Circle, we help you get more money, time and freedom to become limitless through our experiences as fellow landscapers and our tried and tested methods. If you want help with your marketing, managing or growing your business, you've definitely come to the right place. If you're a landscaper, garden designer or supplier to the industry, then hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get back to the show.
Hello, guys, and welcome to the Limitless Landscapers podcast. I'm Paula, your host and the Landscapers coach. How are you doing today? This is part 2 of a 3-part series of the podcast. So last week, I spoke about 2 things that will help grow yourself and your business, and that was planning, and it was about gratitude, in particular gratitude journaling. So a little bit of practical, a little bit of woo. How did you find the episode? Did you try anything? Have you made any changes? Did you get any aha moments? If the answer is yes, do drop me an email, paula@thelandscaperscoach.co.uk, or leave me a review on iTunes, because it does really help me get in front of more people. And thank you for coming back for part 2, because I've got another 2 things to share with you. Again, practical, a little bit of woo. We're literally going all in. I suppose this one is less woo than the last one, but essentially there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about today, and then we've got the final part 3 next week to finish up the series. I'm not going to waffle on because, like I said before, I like to listen to podcasts that generally verge on 15-20 minutes max. Otherwise, my attention wanes and I feel like I don't have time. Let's just get on with it, shall we? So number 1 is I'm talking about time pockets. So I'm talking about how do you utilize the time pockets you get in your day to work on yourself? And that's the woo element of this, is working on yourself, self-development. So I was thinking about this because there's lots of things I really want to do. I don't know about you, but I find things that I want to do. So essentially, I want to have time to meditate. I want to have time to journal. I want to have time to exercise. I want to have time to walk. I want to have time to enjoy nature. I want to have time to read the books. I've got a parenting book on the go, a manifestation book on the go, a badass habits book on the go. I also love podcasts. So I've got different podcasts that I'm listening to. And I was thinking, but I don't have time. So essentially, I was feeling super overwhelmed, not actually doing anything. So not picking up the books, not doing anything. And then I found myself that I found a webinar that I really wanted to do, and it was about planning, which led me on to the podcast. And it was about how to plan things in the most effective way so that you get more done in your day. And I really wanted to watch this webinar, but again, it's like most webinars, I sign up for them and then I never attend them. And I thought, I don't want that to happen this time because it's important to me. It's something I need to work on. I'd identified that time management isn't my best thing that I do. I'm not great at it, so I need as much help and guidance as I can. So I actually scheduled the webinar in to my day, and I knew that I was going to be picking the kids up. I think it was at 4 o'clock. So I'd get home, be able to get on the webinar, but then I knew that I'd have to leave the webinar to go to football training. And essentially, I thought, how can I minimize the disruption? So I thought I'll listen to it on my phone because I could still have it going on. It wasn't, you don't have to have your camera on or anything. So I could just listen to it, take some ideas away and carry on. So that's what I did. Now, what it made me think of was how many pockets of time do I have in my day that I can utilize to do all the things that I want to do to improve myself, to develop myself? And the answer is there's loads. So I found that walking to and from the gym, because I'm trying to get my steps in, as most, I'm on a journey to become a professional athlete, a bodybuilder in the wellness category. So part of that is I have to tick all the boxes in my day. So I have to go to the gym 5 times a week. I have to get my steps in every single day. I have to tick off various other items. But essentially, the way I can do two things is I walk to the gym, do my workout, walk home. That gets a massive chunk of steps in. And during those steps, because it's about a 10-15 minute walk there and back, well, there and then again back, I listen to a podcast. And I pick my podcast, so they're around 10 to 15 minutes, or I'll listen to an episode of Growth Day by Brendan Burchard. And essentially, I utilize that time to listen to podcasts about basically mindset and developing my mindset. So it's really simple to do. I can also then take notes on my phone as I'm going. So I've got a load of notes about journal prompts and things to think about, reflect upon, that sort of thing that I have that note section on my phone. So I do that. And it got me thinking, what other periods of my day? So I also then scheduled another webinar in, which again, very unlike me because I tend to book on and not turn up. But I thought, no, I'm not doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule in this other marketing webinar where it was all about marketing and jump on it because it's been a long time since I've thought about marketing and planning marketing properly. I tend to do a lot of marketing. I know what I'm doing, but not really have a set plan. So that was a really good webinar. And I just made sure I scheduled it for what would be my lunch time. So I made sure I prepped my food, sat down, bashed it out. I think it was a 40-minute webinar and took a load of notes and I started implementing it. Now, my point being here is that there is a huge amount of time pockets in your day that get wasted. Some of you will say, I haven't got time to create content. Again, you could do it while you're driving somewhere. You can do it if you're walking somewhere. You can create content on the go. You don't have to be sat at a laptop creating content. You can create little video snippets. When you're on a job, just take a few photos. It's quite simple to do, but you constantly think you have to schedule or dedicate a load of time to do these things, and you don't. So I'm saying, think about time pockets in your day that you could fill with really good quality things to do. So self-development being one of them. Something else that I've started to do is reading in the evening, just before bed. So it's a way to really get my brain to start switching off. So that's why I've started all of the books that I mentioned earlier, started on one of those to get that in as well. Because ultimately, if I don't make the time and don't utilize these small pockets of time, then I'm not going to get anywhere. Now, the results of this is I've been listening to these podcasts during my walk, and it's really started to change my mindset quite a lot on a lot of different areas of my life. It started to get me to reflect, and essentially it's put me in a much better frame of mind for going forward, and I would highly, highly recommend it. The second thing I wanted to talk about is keeping yourself accountable. It's probably the most practical thing I'm going to talk about in this 3-part series, and it's about why it's so important. Now, the whole point of being accountable is the fact that if you don't have a way to hold yourself accountable, you probably won't get anything done. And that's not me being harsh, that's being real, really. Because if I don't have people that I have to be accountable to, then nothing becomes important or urgent and nothing gets done because no one really cares. If I don't do it, no one actually cares about it. So it's important to keep holding yourself accountable. Now, how you do that is completely up to you. There's a variety of ways to do so. Now, I prefer to invest my time and money into having coaches that will hold me accountable. So I have to check in every week without fail with my business coach, my trauma coach, and with my PT. And the reason I do this is because if they don't tell me what to do or I don't check in, then they are going to ask why. And I've got to answer some questions if I haven't done any of the homework I was meant to do. So it's a way to stop your excuses by having coaches around you, whether that's business or personal training or anything else. They hold you accountable to being the best you possible because they want to make sure you are ticking the boxes, you are getting stuff done, and you are not just slacking off. And not just slacking off because you're lazy, it's more like you get overwhelmed with life, you get caught up in the mundane shit of business, and things just go pass you by. Time passes you by and you haven't done that marketing campaign that you promised yourself you'd do. You haven't hit the goals that you set yourself at the beginning of the year. So it's really important that you hold yourself accountable so that it stops every excuse. It stops the excuses in the tracks. Now, other ways to keep yourself accountable, and something that I've implemented, is my regular weekly meetings with my soft landscaping guy, hard landscaping manager, i.e. Mike, and the designer. And that is through weekly meetings where we can catch up on what's happened over the week, what we're projected to do the week going forward, any issues, any queries that we need to work through, essentially where are we at income-wise, where are we at with staffing. All of these things can be done. Now, if I didn't book in this meeting and make the time to do, and how I've made the time is the kids go to before school club, I book in the appointment, I've booked myself out for that meeting, and I go to the office and we have a meeting there in person. Now, if I didn't do that, a lot of the things that I say have to be done wouldn't get done. So from that meeting, I put together an overview of minutes, actions that each of us have to take, and then the agenda for the following week. So that goes out, it went out today, ready for next Tuesday's meeting. And then again, that's me holding myself accountable because I've got actions on there that I have to do. So essentially, I have to schedule them into my plan. Going back to step one of this 3-part series, I have to schedule that into my plan to make sure that they actually get done by the time frame that I've told them and me that it'll get done. So by holding yourself accountable is telling people. It's the same when you're goal setting. Tell people what your goals are, because then it's embarrassing if you don't achieve them, really. If you keep everything to yourself, you're keeping yourself safe. Whereas if you tell everybody, this is what's going to happen, this is what I'm going to do, then the more you're going to, that is a way of holding yourself accountable and making sure that you're going to at least try and achieve it. And what I always say is, you've got to shoot for the stars. If you don't quite make the stars, you're gonna come further than you thought if you held yourself back. So you need to find a way to stop your excuses and get that accountability into your life on a regular basis. Like for me, it's on the weekly. It will go to daily, particularly for my bodybuilding journey. As we get closer and closer to getting on stage, close to the competition date, I will be having daily check-ins, and then it will be after every meal check-in. So the accountability will increase dramatically between now and September, which will be an experience in itself. But again, I am not going to go off plan if I'm going to be held accountable every meal. So you've got to think about things in that way. What can you do to hold yourself accountable? What things can you put into place? What practices can you put into place to keep developing yourself? And how can you utilize your time in the best possible way instead of just letting it waste away, coast along, and things not changing? So that's it from me. As I said, I'm keeping it short and sweet. I'll be back for part 3 next week. And in the meantime, let me know if you've enjoyed this podcast. Let me know if you've taken anything away and any results that you get. And I will see you on the Limitless Landscapers podcast this time next week. See you later, guys.